Last year, I came before you to call for an expanded space policy that would rekindle the imagination of the American people to recapture the spirit of Apollo. I did this because our space program had stalled and was wallowing in the mire of apathy and aimlessness. A presidential call to return to the moon and proceed to Mars fell as flat as yesterday's headlines. And since that time, the budget for such an effort, minuscule even at its inception, has vanished from the ledgers. And the National Space Council and NASA's Office of Exploration have been dissolved. Our Space Shuttle and expendable launch vehicle fleet continue to point up the risk and rigors of getting into Earth orbit. And our logical next step, the space station Freedom, is still fighting for its very existence. The massive national deficit and demands for increased social spending, a sluggish world economy, coupled with a new world order, diminishing resources, and an increasingly fragile ecosystem are causing us to restructure our priorities. These issues have reached such proportions and import that to ignore them now is to sentence our future generations to a quality of life I'm sure no one in this room would be willing to accept. This may seem like an unlikely environment for me once again to come before you and espouse a far-reaching vision that would take us to the stars in search of new life. But that's what I intend to do. Now I come with a mandate and the means to do it. I offer commercial incentive that can provide the solution to many of the major problems facing the world today and make possible an expanded space vision for tomorrow. The problem with today's space program is there's no short-term benefits that the public can directly relate to, and no long-term vision that will motivate them. Recent surveys have shown that the public would support an expanded space program if they understood the specific short-term purpose that provides benefits coupled to a long-term vision. I will discuss today a proposed space program that has a 100-year vision and a specific beneficial near-term purpose. The specific near-term purpose is to return to the moon and mine helium-3 for nuclear fusion power on Earth, and then expand into the solar system and eventually to nearby stars with the purpose of finding new life as a long-term vision. This is how I see it unfolding in 3 epochs, the first of which is on the screen now. Epoch I is proposed as our minimum near-term space program, Space Station Freedom in near-Earth orbit, being serviced by the Space Shuttle, the National Aerospace Plane, and the single stage-to-orbit vehicle. Just above Freedom is an Earth observing system satellite that, as part of mission to planet Earth, will monitor and analyze our planet's ecological systems. There are also a great many scientific, defense, and launch systems not shown here, but whose technologies will evolve to play critical roles in future epochs. On the right, a lunar base serves not only as a research center, an observation post for the universe, but also a possible rehearsal center and launch pad for missions to Mars. The base's major function, however, would be to serve as a mining center for helium-3, which will be ferried back to Earth via an SSTO-type transfer vehicle to fuel Earth-based fusion reactors. The byproducts, hydrogen, oxygen, and so forth, can support a large, self-sustaining moon base. As my colleagues have discussed, we're rapidly depleting our fossil fuels to the point where they won't be economically recoverable in about 50 years. In other words, your kids are going to run out of gas. Although solar, geo, biomass, and wind are supplemental energy sources, they cannot supply the 10 million megawatt years per year of power we currently use. Only nuclear has the potential to solve tomorrow's massive world energy needs. Today's nuclear fission and tomorrow's proposed nuclear fusion deuterium-tritium power plants generate large amounts of heat and radioactivity. Only deuterium helium-3 has the potential of direct electrical conversion, very low radiation and heat waste, and is clearly economically viable. One space shuttle load of 25 metric tons will electrically power the United States for 1 year and would have a market value of $75 billion today. And there is in excess of 1 million tons on the moon. The solution to our major energy and pollution problems can be solved by mining helium-3 on the moon and returning it to Earth to fuel nuclear fusion power plants. Unfortunately, there's almost no natural helium-3 on Earth due to its magnetic field. But there's a 1,000-year supply of helium-3 on the moon with a total market value of $3 quadrillion at today's oil prices. As fossil fuels are depleted on Earth, we must choose a safe, low radiation, non-polluting nuclear alternative. Helium-3 appears to be it. We must reinvigorate our current space program towards this 20-year strategic intent of making the Earth energy self-sufficient. Our near-term space program should be focused on an expanded space station as the Life, Science, and Materials Research Laboratory, and later as a safe way station for the lunar mission. Our other focuses should be on monitoring our ecosystem, unmanned science missions, an improved space shuttle fleet, and advanced transportation systems such as NASP and SSTO. This enhanced near-term program will provide the infrastructure for returning to the moon. This program should be a U.S.-led, cooperative international effort with the full support of government, industry, and academia, doing business in a new way, a tight, efficient team operating on total quality principles. Establishing this infrastructure in space could have the same economic effects that the railroads to the west and modern highways have had on our current culture. Wherever they touched, prosperity followed. All the government has to do is supply the infrastructure, step aside, and let commercial initiative move ahead into this $3 quadrillion marketplace. The return on investment will be so large, it's incalculable, similar to Columbus's discovery of the New World after Isabella's investment. So we've been discussing Epoch I and its short-term benefits, but it is but a stepping stone to the future. The technological spin-offs of lunar and Mars operations and the maturing of helium-3 nuclear fusion power make the next two epochs possible. Epoch II, as shown in this visual, is a manned tour and exploration of the solar system. It consists of a series of ever-evolving spacecraft with advanced power and propulsion systems, as well as closed-loop life support and human environmental systems. These vehicles, derived from earlier Mars ships, would be propelled by a helium-3 nuclear fusion-powered electrical drive system. This system will probably have its origin in ion, particle beam, laser, or matter-antimatter annihilation technologies of today. The mission of these spacecraft would be to go into orbit around various planets and moons, sending landers to study and categorize them for later exploitation of resources, including additional sources of helium-3. Epoch II would overlap the end of Epoch I, commencing in perhaps the 2020 time period and extending to about the year 2040, all the while pushing the edge of technology. A very large optical telescope, the follow-on to Hubble, and radio frequency sensors, the follow-on to EOS, established in Earth orbit would survey the closest stars, searching for planets that most probably could support life. As that field is narrowed down, assembly in Earth orbit at the expanded space station will be completed on the large interstellar vehicle which will begin the journey that mankind has dreamed about since first looking up at the heavens. In the words of Neil Armstrong, the final giant leap for mankind to the stars. Epoch III, as shown in this visual, will be to leave our solar system to explore a planet in a nearby star system, such as the Alpha Centauri group. Sensor data collected over the years will point the way towards the planet or planets that show the most promise of supporting life. As the huge starship approaches its target, onboard sensors will make the final selection before manned landers are sent to touch down on the surface to search for life. This sequence would be repeated for every potential life-supporting planet in that vicinity. Alpha Centauri is 4.3 light years from Earth, 25 trillion miles. Will require fractional light speed spacecraft of perhaps 1 million pounds that is powered by a helium-3 nuclear fusion powered matter antimatter annihilation propulsion system. This system continuously accelerates at only 2 feet per second to 1/2 light speed at the 2 light year halfway point, then decelerates the remaining distance to Alpha Centauri. This continual acceleration-deceleration provides partial artificial gravity. The mass of the spacecraft increases only 19% at our peak velocity of 90,000 miles per second due to relativity effects. The power required would be about 60,000 pounds of thrust, or about the same as a single jet engine of today's large commercial aircraft. The journey would take 16 years going and 16 years returning, plus 5 years exploring various planets, for a total mission of 37 years. Other scenarios could shorten this mission to about 20 years and could be the logical outgrowth of our near-term space program and tour of the solar system. The next 100 years will encompass a lot of first graders, including some who could be headed for a class in computer science aboard a ship bound for Alpha Centauri. Even this giant leap for mankind is only one small step for a man in the endless exploration of our galaxy and the universe. We're the first generation that has the knowledge and means to move upward and outward, to solve Earth's major problems and provide a significantly better life for future generations. The time to make the commitment of returning to the moon, to make Earth energy self-sufficient, and to realize the long-term vision is now. The time to embark on this 100-year strategy with its near-term payoff is today. We know that opinion polls will stand behind us and that the fate of future generations depend on us. 500 years ago, Columbus had a grand and expansive vision, similar to the one we should commit to today. In space lie the solutions to Earth's short-term ills and the long-term hope and motivation for the future. We must propose this solution and vision to the people this year. As their imagination is challenged and excited by this vision, their support will grow, and our space program will again experience the spirit of Apollo and move forward. We must return to the moon and explore the stars forevermore. It is the destiny of humanity.